Love and longing. He couldn't help but laugh at the sight of many reporters and eager camera crews being held back by security. He had deliberately kicked this anthill, and it was going utterly insane in response. Miroir can scarcely contain her own giggles. Neither of them had any illusions to just how big of a mess was made by that little slip of cinder tongue, but they had both been ready in their own ways for it. Vernon was simply laughing at the confusion where Miroir was capitalizing on it as she cuddled into his side. The whole world of Serbo and many of her colonies were watching. Best give them something to see, although the smug look on her face was probably a bit much. There are a few minutes after Vernon stops laughing, and both are just cuddling with each other when a crew is allowed through. They're walking up in a defensive formation around someone in the middle of all them. There are a couple of camera girls with drones following them, but for the most part, these are princesses that approach. Miroir sits upright and takes a more defensive position in case things go wrong. Then they stop, and after a few moments, a willowy, delicate-looking Apuk man steps out. He's barefoot and smiling somewhat as he regards Vernon. "Must you bring flame beneath boughs?" he asks Vernon, who chuckles. They had already named me Sorcerer, confirming it allows them to prepare so I may test myself against mightier foes. Vernon replies, and the Sorcerer shakes his head with a smile. "He's a sorcerer, one of the newest and most swiftly confirmed," the Sorcerer replies. "I am Brinchar. When I was 6, I ran away from home because I was utterly infuriated with a life lacking focus and purpose. I found the woods, and the woods found me. I am Vernon Shea when the call arose for an impossible journey where death and doom was all that was truly expected. I leapt upon the chance. Through darkness and madness, I and so many others crawled to find ourselves within light and wonder." Vernon begins before leaning into Miroir to kiss her. "Then love found me and I found love. In exploring it, I was shown the woods and went to see what could be learned. Teaching was the cost, and one I gladly paid. I'm aware I have partaken in the lessons you have brought to the boughs," Brinchar says, and Vernon smiles. "So you can speak in English?" he asks. "I can indeed. Also, that mental shortcut of yours to transform things is brilliant. Everyone's always got an excuse to carry around a piece or two of tritite, and now we can get weapons and armor out of it. That's absurdly valuable." Brinchar gushes. Clearly there's a respectable undercurrent of nerd in this sorcerer. Because the vitamin C I learned isn't absolutely amazing and fascinating on 100 different levels. Vernon remarks while chuckling, "Speaking of, I'd like to request you use that in the next round. Your time manipulations are interesting, but it's not going to avail you any further, and no doubt many of them are unlikely to—" "Oh, hello, madam." Brinchar cuts himself off as a massive foot stomps down nearby. Vernon turns with a sigh. "Why is it you people can't approach from the front and always have to make your declarations from behind? I'm not ugly, am I? Does my face repel or something?" Vernon jokes and Miroir titters. "Of course not, don't be silly. So you're then next Apuk to take deep offense at my husband?" Miroir asks, looking the tower of muscle and rage in a vaguely female shape up and down. "You're clearly insecure in your strength and definitely compensating for something. A frail flame, perhaps?" she asks, nodding to the Amazonian Apuk's flame-patterned outfit. "Unlike you or your Tretpet, I don't need tricks. I don't know what scheme you have, but I've sculpted myself into a living weapon just to face Kyla Jass, and you took that from me." She snarls before leaning down with a snarl. "We're at opposite ends of the tournament, so I won't be facing you until the final round. I won't be holding back, so you have time to write out your last will and testament," she snarls. "That's too far!" Miroir hisses, standing up, and Vernon rises and intercepts. "Calm down. She's just a bully looking to get me thrown out by provoking us or scare me off, as if I haven't faced death or pain or humiliation," Vernon says smoothly as his wife literally smolders in rage. He leans over and kisses her on the lips. She's startled at first, but quickly melts into it and calms down. "A very interesting tactic, Miss Zionhute. The Tournament Commission and I will be watching both you and him with great interest, so I can assure you there will be no cheating from either of you. Now, I would recommend that you leave and keep a respectful distance before we start to consider psychological warfare to be out of ring violence," Brinchar says evenly, and with more than a little authority in his voice. Zionhute seems to rise up in anger before tightly nodding and turning on her heel to march away. So she was in a rivalry with that green one, and is now furious I got between them. Huh, I've stumbled into an anime, Vernon remarks. An anime? What's an anime? Brinchar asks. Short for Japanese animation. They're fond of stories with two rivals constantly battling with each other and pressing one another to be better and better until, usually, the underdog overtakes the one who seemed to be the sure winner at the end because he had more to prove and pushed harder and harder without growing overly prideful. The problem is that I've stumbled into the middle of this and likely pissed off both sides due to winning against one of the two. Though which of the two, the hard worker or natural genius, is likely up for debate. Vernon muses, as his mind goes to a great deal of the shows he'd availed himself while just trying to pass the time in zero gravity. Regardless, there's going to be a lot of bitterness from her coming up. She's liable to work herself into a greater and greater fury if she passes all her rounds, or maybe her rage will overtake her and she will make a mistake. Either way, we've got some solid drama in the tournament this year. Brinchar notes. Speaking of, let's head some off. Miro Noir, my love. Brinchar has asked me to switch the tactics I had in mind for the last round with the next one. I do hope that won't be much of an issue. Oh, not at all, although I want you to fight safely. As Hute has proven, there are some less than honorable members willing to do anything to win. Some things might not technically be against the rules, but they certainly go against the idea of a cleanly fought and won tournament. Miro Noir warns him, and he nods. I'll be fine, my love. Don't you worry. As I said before, should I find myself in real danger, I let everything out. I don't think any of them will be ready for that, he remarks, and she just snuggles into him. You know we're here for backstage drama and to inform people, not clips for a romance. Brinchar teases and is waved off by Vernon, and he simply chuckles in response. I look forward to your next fight. Show them what it means to face a son of the woods. He finishes before giving the group he came in with, likely his wives, a look that they understand, and the entire crowd quickly finds its way out to leave Vernon with Miro Noir to wait for the next round. Soon enough, he's walking out into the arena, his feet bare and his pants rolled up to just below the knees. There's a rush in the crowd, and he holds up his arms as he heads to his position. The fourth round begins, and something odd is going on. Our sorcerer contestant has modified his outfit. Can we hear why? Goyitis asks, and Vernon nods. He takes a moment to glace up at the contestant lists. It shows several of them breathing fire or using brute force to best their enemies. Neither is going to avail them, and he's going to get an image updated from merely holding his sword as it's sheathed in electricity. Brinchar, a fellow sorcerer, asked me to use more outright sorcerer-style abilities. I was planning on saving this for the final round, but... He shrugs. Why not? Oh dear. Be ready, girls. This is going to be right out of a storybook. Goyitis announces, and Vernon shrugs. I haven't actually read one of those yet. Do you have any recommendations? He asks as he looks up to the box. Oh no, not right now. The match begins in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Begin, she announces, and Vernon's stance widens even as the other contestants rush at him to stop him before he can do anything. The arena floor cracks and shatters as roots tear themselves from the fire-hardened stone to grasp at the contestants. Enormous trees begin to grow upwards and upwards as the roots grab and restrain the APUC contestants and then move over their shells, slowly spreading and cracking the comparatively frail metal. Their strength avails them not, and the fire merely feeds the wood. Vernon has simply vanished in the confusion. Sorry, ladies, but it's already over, he remarks softly. He then reveals himself as the leaves on the tallest tree parts, and he steps further out onto one of its strong boughs, his feet gripping the bark as he easily balances upon it. Then there's a cracking sound, followed by a series of others. He looks down and smiles when he sees that the APUC below have vanished. Displacement teleports, he notes, as a fireball is blocked by the hungering branches to catch and drink the flames. Very clever, he continues as if he had not been interrupted. He sits down on the branch and lets his legs dangle as he looks down on the furious but very cautious Amazons below him. Do you have more? Or may I continue? He asks in Cinder Tongue, and two of them leap at him. The branches of the tree grow longer and slap them out of the air and onto the arena floor. Sorry, but this is sorcery. You'll need a princess to pull me from this tree. Is there one here? You're not a sorcerer. You're some tret punk in the middle of a... one of them begins, and a root whips up from the floor to wrap around her and squeeze until the shell shatters. "Anyone else?" he asks. "Are there any bright ideas, bouts of courage, or unexpected tactics? You have 30 seconds before I break every remaining shell but my own," he calls down as he stands up on the swaying branch in perfect balance. Then he begins counting down under his breath. Entire rivers of blue fire are spat at him, but the very leaves of the trees redirect the flame to drink deeply of the heat, and axiom causing the tree to grow larger and stronger. Those that try to jump are swatted back, and the few who think to climb the trunk find the bark slamming around their fingers and turning every bit of movement into a war. As green as the leaves is the flame needed to scorch these branches. He remarks with closed eyes as he seems to ignore the world around him. Then his eyes snap open, glowing pure white, and he glares down at them. The entire forest begins to twist and slam down to grab the other fighters and pin them to the ground. He then lands between them all, as light as a feather, and regards them. "Last chance to pull something unexpected," he remarks. 5, 4... They all vanish in short teleports. They surround him but are swept away by the trees and roots, twisting again before they can strike at him. 3, 2... He dodges a chunk of the arena floor being hurled at him at a speed that reduces it to a blur. 1. Time's up! He finishes the count before turning as the tree that is still thrashing about and grappling 4 separate audiobook in his defense takes on a burst of speed to rival his own. The largest tree begins to glow, its mere presence now disrupting the axiom being used by the audiobook women even as it grabs them and holds them helpless. It twists around and vines grow from the branches to wrap around them and then squeeze their shells into shards. It then lets them all go. "Thank you, my friend. I hope the feast of flame and fear was filling," he says, walking up to the tree and putting his hand on the bark. There is a deep rustling moan and he nods in return. "Of course, don't you worry, I'm trying to test myself, although I do appreciate the offer, thank you," he says, and the entire tree begins glowing brighter and brighter. Then the light fades away and takes the tree with it, leaving behind an unblemished arena floor and 5 defeated audiobook contestants. He simply nods to all of them and silently walks away. I did not win this. I brought the woods to win this for me. Traditional sorcery or not, this was not a win. Not at all. Good goddess, that was incredible. The sheer effortless dominance of a sorcerer, the utter ease of it all. We all saw that clip from the back where he and Brinchar spoke. He's the real deal, and unless a girl's a princess in the making, then there's just not a chance. Goyetus announces with glee as the image of Vernon holding the tri-tite war sword with electricity running across it is replaced with one where he's simply holding his palm to the trunk of the glowing tree. The Bounty Hunters. A hand is held up as the team prepares itself. Mostly pirates waiting nearby to drop in with mech suits. One of 2 armored teams, because this was not a stealth mission. It was time to go in loud. A breaching charge blasts the door open on the compound and plasma and lasers scream out. The whole operation had been lured back with a hack into their network and rumors of a squealer to get everyone together as they tried to figure out who the snitch was, meaning it was a perfect opportunity to kill each and every one of the fuckers. The pirate boys are in first, their Kutha and Jehest rings projecting impenetrable riot shields before they take a knee, and from above them, the boys of the Chainbreaker bring in an unholy amount of fire. The organ farmers and their kidnappers break and run almost immediately, valuing their own lives over profit. Stepping over the corpses, the men silently give chase with nary a word as they keep them running and running towards their private hangar bay where their ships lay ready to fly. Between them and the ship is a small army of power armor bearing pirates with their weapons primed and readied. All but a small handful of them are reduced to charcoal and offal upon the floor. "Damn, that was easy!" one of the pirates exclaims, and the team lets out some chuckles. "Course it was. Proper planning prevents poor performance," one of the soldiers remarks. "That was fun, but now it's time for the harder work. Call the doctors, we've got lives to save," Beck remarks as he pulls down his own bandana. "Do we really have to?" one of the pirates asks, and Beck turns to her. "What better way to win an entire planet over Laura?" "But it costs us money," she remarks before gesturing to the ships. "We could just take over the operation and make their money instead." Short term, yes. But a loyal and happy population gets us more in the long run. If we don't have to protect ourselves, hide ourselves, or even so much as glare at the people here, then it's dirt cheap to do things. Besides, if you can drop your guard and still be safe, then isn't that worth a ton? A beachside vacation without worry, where you get good but cheap food, plenty of fun things to do, and time in the sun and surf doesn't appeal? Well, She grows quiet, and the suit tilts as if in thought. You kids debate later. First off, let's get the docs in. Mustard remarks as he grabs his communicator and quickly calls them in. Do a head count, people. This cabal of organ runners is 53 girls in size. We need to make sure that one of them wasn't pulling something clever. Yeah, give me a moment, Marcus remarks as he quickly points from one to the next. 51. Shit. All right, girls. We're running both protection detail and hunting detail. You girls and everyone to the left are with me and Mustard. We're going on the hunt, he orders as he pulls up his bandana again. You heard the man, girls. We're hunting. Laura answers and the two groups quickly split, then split again. A quarter follows Marcus and the other is after Mustard. They vanish into the compound as a shuttle comes down and several of the ship's doctors come out. Mostly Cobes with their natural proclivity to medicine, but there are a couple of Carib as well as a deep crag Nagasha. Alien medicine is all about their axiom magic, so the magic antlered caribou women and rattlesnake girls were of course in high demand over the girls that actually know how to perform surgery. With a protective detail around the doctors, and each room entered as if it could be full of hostiles. Sai with the shield up and Strong followed by Dong with his gun at the ready. Only on the call of clear do they advance as they search the building systematically. Then they find it. A series of shelves with nearly 100 people, each of them trapped in an unending axiom-based sleep that goes from normal to healing. There are no headpieces. Their minds have been wiped out. Dong does a quick count. 134 women in this tomb of living death. Well, it's not good. None of these girls have retention helmets. Their old selves are lost unless we can get an axiom adept that knows how to do a deep memory dive, and those are rare. Dr. Lena remarks before she rises up a little and shakes her carib antlers. Barely any Kutha in the room. Just enough to keep these girls down. It may be kinder to simply make their sleep more permanent. We are not euthanizing the hostages, Sai hisses. And when they wake up, what then? They will have nothing. No memories, no past, no future. Their skills are gone. Their names are gone. Their breathing corpses used over and over again to rip organs out of and then reset. They've been through the process so many times that even a Grandmaster Axiom soul healer would struggle to get even their actual ages. She lets out a few breaths after her rant before looking down the beds. I have never seen this level of sheer apathy. I've treated laser burns, plasma eviscerations, more poisons than I can list, put in more staples to close wounds than an entire craft store has in stock, and put together enough broken bones to make a ship out of shattered skeletons. I've seen victims and perpetrators of violence run from giddy to annoyed to absolutely furious. But this sheer carelessness is too much. This aren't victims, these aren't even people on any level. They're meat. And that is beyond horrific, Sai says as he walks up to the nearest one. A short-haired felid who breathes quietly as she continues her possibly century-long rest. He strokes her cheek and considers. So we give them new names, teach them new lives, and offer them a future with us. Looking at things your way shows us a massive burden and an impossible challenge. However, I see hundreds of potential allies. We have a chance to mold each and every one of these poor women into the next generation on the Tiger. I'm seeing future mechanics, pilots, cooks, sheriffs even. I didn't even consider it that way, Lena remarks with a shocked expression. Everyone's communicator pings. The message is simple. The hunting team has the runners as prisoners. The building is secure. All right then. We're getting these girls someplace safe them and helping them. Time to get moving. Sai orders. Far away, just outside a dark and abandoned mine, a bag of gore and offal is watched as it drips with blood. Miles is currently staring down the scope of his gun so he can get a proper look at whatever is lairing in the abandoned mine. He and Tang have been switching in and out to make sure there was always at least one pair of eyes on this long and slow hunt. There were just too many unknowns with the creature to pile into them mine all gun-ho. Axiom complicates things so much that there was a very real option it might be able to become intangible and gore someone through power armor, or had some kind of weird energy link-up where it gives you its wounds or any number of weird effects. "Anything yet?" Tang asks from behind him as he sips a coffee. "Afraid not. Get the feeling everyone else is having a lot more fun. Sniper's curse, you stay out of it until that last pinch moment. Move, set up, and wait. Wait until it's time." "Amen, brother," Miles answers. "Hold it. There may be some movement," Miles says as there's a sense of distortion near the meat. Then a chunk is torn out of it. "Fuck me, it's invisible," he hisses as Tang drops down beside him and brings his gun back up to look through the scope. "That's a problem. We may need to get creative," the Korean sniper says as they both watch a massive maw full of razor-sharp teeth reveal itself from the staining blood. "Hopefully the thing swallows and doesn't crush the trackers we snuck into that mess," Miles remarks as he pulls out a small screen. "Ah, fuck. Well, wish in one hand, shit in the other. Shit hand's getting filled, isn't it? We've lost the signal on 3 of the 12. Hopefully the poison capsules will be a little better. Still think it's a bit much to poison what you're also trying to track," Tang remarks as he mentally sketches out what the creature is generally shaped like by the angles it bites from and how it tears things. It's either got a very long neck or is bipedal from the way it's moving. It's about 6 to 8 feet tall at the maw and has either an upper pair of arms or it rears back to do this and use its foreclaws to steady the meat before ripping more away. The shape of the head says insectoid, or at least bearing a fairly robust exoskeleton from the natural plating on it. "Isn't it your team that advocated overkill?" Miles asks with a grin as he gets a good idea of where its center mass is and slowly bring his finger to the trigger as he makes the minute adjustments for wind, humidity, and distance. "True enough. You have a shot?" Tang asks as he makes his own adjustments. "Yes, but I think we should track it back in, make sure it's actually alone, or if it's bringing the meat back to a nest or something." Miles counters and Tang hums. "Hand me the tracker," Tang remarks, and the device is held just over his head. He grabs it and examines it. "We may be in luck. 2 of the trackers are lower than the others, but not quite far enough down to be on the ground. I think we've got the bitch." Then hopefully the poison dose is small enough to make it go to its nest to nap and not outright kill it. Miles answers as they continue to watch the creature, which grows sloppier and sloppier with its eating until it stains its entire head. It's definitely a massive insect, but it's got some reptilian traits as well with the bony protrusions and mild frill. A few more mouthfuls as the thing apparently absolutely has to gorge itself, and it starts shuffling back into the cave. "We got it," Miles says with a shark-like smile. "All right, ladies, prep for silent running. We're on a bug hunt." The entire squad they brought with them quickly suits up properly and stops all the snacking and hanging out they were doing as they waited for the beast. Then they insist on going into the caves first, as both Miles and Tang are down to shotguns and pistols. Sniper rifles are just not practical in a cave system. As an old mine, the entire complex is wide and has 90-degree turns to different shafts. They follow the signal with the pirates following their more protective instincts to surround both Miles and Tang as they make their way through the shadows. After a short time, they're led to an open area with numerous bones scattered throughout it, and in the center is the creature with the gore being slowly licked off it. So it's got babies, and none of them are even visible on infrared. Fuck! Hose it down, ladies, we're blowing the entrance. Miles orders, and the mech assault squad around him and Tang bring up their plasma rifles and let out continual streams of blazing hot death into the room. It's maintained for 10 seconds, then everyone quickly leaves before things get further out of hand. A bomb pallet is wheeled in and attached to one of the supports near the entrance, and they quickly vacate the area. A big boom later, and the issue of the monsters is gone and done.